What is your name?
My name is Lexi Reed.
My name's Ashley Wheeler. Ava King. Isabella Renucci.
Uh,
Meg Barnum.
Jaden Lucy.
Pandemic. Have you ever been anxious?
Yes.
Why?
It's just so much more stressful to just live in general during the pandemic.
When you first heard about the coronavirus, were you worried at all?
Yeah, I was.
Did you think it would be anything this big?
Well, I didn't really know it was gonna happen.
I thought it was just gonna stay in Asia and kind of like fizzle out.
I thought it was just like this disease that went around.
Do you
I kind of thought that it might be cut off earlier, but with certain events happening, it kind of just progressed into a bigger thing.
would you admit that?
So early on, when reportings of COVID first started to happen, I looked at it and I've heard news and I'm like, this is not going to be that big of a deal, and I just let it be. Never really thought of it that much. In fact, during one of my history classes, one kid was like, "Yeah, I'm hearing about this COVID thing. I'm very nervous about it. It's like spreading everywhere." And our history teacher said, "Nah, it's not going to be that big of a deal. The media is only really bringing it to light because the election's coming up soon." He listed off all the different types of pandemics that have happened that weren't that bad because of elections and all that stuff. And he was right about one thing. It was brought up in the election. So, yeah. And when lockdown started to happen, I was very confused and frightened. All of my plans that I've been preparing for just had to stop. Like, I was going to go to DC in school. Go DC. My class was going to go to DC, and that had to be stopped, and that really hurt my feelings. I was crushed by it. And then we had to go online. Then suddenly we had to wear masks.
What is your name?
My name is Carly Humphrey.
What do you do for a living?
I am a U.S. history teacher here at West.
What is your name?
Hannah Erickson.
And you are a student here?
Yes, I'm a freshman.
What are your thoughts on online learning?
I don't really have a problem with it. It's not like my favorite thing in the world, but I don't really see a problem with it.
If it was decided that the
I couldn't see many relatives at this point. I couldn't see my grandma Sandy, who I would hang out, me, her, my sister.
who are you?
Sandra Britton,
What's your job?
perishable manager at Tom's,
How are you lonely?
because I wasn't able to see my family on a regular basis when it was really, really bad and rampant.
When you first heard,
Hang out every Wednesday, all the time, and suddenly we couldn't hang out as much anymore, and that was really heartbreaking. And I couldn't see my mother's parents, my mom and grandpa, and my stepmother's parents, my mom and granddad. I couldn't see them as much or at all. Couldn't even really talk that much. And I'm the kind of person who likes a routine, just likes things to be a certain way. Like, we're gonna do this on that day, and then this is gonna happen on that day, and then it's gonna be like that. But with the pandemic, that kind of just crushed all those hopes away, and it really started to affect me in a way because with all these new rules, I couldn't really do anything, or I just had to stay home and watch TV. I couldn't talk with my friends. I didn't have a phone, and it was very odd and confusing for me. And it started to have an effect on my mental health. Every day I would check the news all the time to see if there were any updates, to see it like, oh, they found a magic cure that will cure COVID instantly and we can all go back to normal. in my mind, really wanted it to happen, but I knew that was not going to be the reality. And it would just constantly be disappointment of COVID cases are rising everywhere. Lockdowns are still going on. There is no hope. And it was really disheartening, and it really focused, got me to focus more on the news, which made me more anxious, just seeing that there was no possibility of hope. And because of the news and me learning more about goings on in the world, I started to form my own views on the world around me and politics. I had views on certain things, like everyone does, but I really started to shape my views on politics and the world and how things should be and how things were and all that stuff. And to help and trying to help myself with a lot of these things, I got into art. I was very artistic, and I loved to draw, and I started to watch more movies because we're in lockdown, and I started really getting into the craft of filmmaking, like how to do certain things and telling stories, because I've always loved to tell stories to people and entertain, and how films are made and the stories behind them and stories in them was really fascinating. Like some of my favorite films now that I just saw in the past couple of years are Akira, Limelight, Woodstock, all those films, and they really helped me distract me from the world. And I got invested in it. I want to make people happy or think in some way because those films that I've just mentioned made me think in some way, or really are really entertaining to watch. Like Akira really helped me settle with my thoughts on death and how to come to terms with that. And Limelight really helped me. Uh, it helped me understand Chaplin a little more and the great metaphor for his career that movie was. And Woodstock is just very it shows the end of a time that was slowly dying. That things were going to change, and then it's like the last gasp of like that era of the hippie movement and a possible utopia. And it just analyzing films really helped distract from the world, but that would often not work because I would go back into that world of sadness and pain and anger, and I would just oftentimes cry myself to sleep because I didn't know what to do, and the world was just it seemed as if the world was falling apart, and what was I gonna do? And it was not like always around there. Like I was not always sad and depressed. A lot of the time, it was like I'm sad then, I'm happy now. I'm sad then, happy now. It's kind of a pattern of sort, and it was a very long few months that we were in lockdown, very confusing time, and it really hurt, and I got upset and angry at the world. That why did this have to happen? Things were going fine. Why did this have to happen? Like I remember me and my sister and my mom were walking, and we were talking about COVID restrictions, and I was really upset because I couldn't talk with my grandma that much, and I said, "Why are we taking this so seriously? It's just a disease that kills old people." It's kind of ridiculous now, and it is. What I said was stupid and ridiculous. Just the fact that I was so upset and angry about all that was going on, and I just lashed out and I said something stupid, and I didn't know what to do. All I could do was say stuff and try and survive in the world. Even now, I try and do that. But anyway, the world marched on with crippling legs and butchered and battered and sick and on fire, and things just seemed as if they weren't getting normal quickly enough. I wanted things to be like, done. We're back to normal. Everything's fine. But that's never going to happen. It's still not even now fully back to normal. It's getting a lot better, but it didn't. It's not 100%. And in school, when we finally got back online, there were a lot of not weird for me anyway, to like wear a mask all day. Have to clean our desks before everything. Couldn't move around a lot. Had to be in a classroom for lunch, and that didn't make me feel better. I'm not saying that those rules should not have been in place, but they didn't help me with my anxiety, and they just made me feel very odd. Because I was entering high school, which is doubly weird, and now with the pandemic, that would just be even crazier. And like before, you try and march on, and you try to be better with yourself and be good. And for 2021, I was hoping that this would be the year the pandemic would be over, that everything would be fine in the end, that all things would go back to normal, and that we would never have to worry about this COVID thing again, and then I would be happy again. And I said goodbye to 2020 with happy eyes or happiness, and I didn't know what was going to happen next. So in 2021, it's probably one of the worst years of my life. Starting off, there was a coup attempt. That was lovely. Which, side note here, was it was me, my dad, and my grandma. We were watching a movie, and it was a movie about zombies. There was a scene where the zombies were at the Capitol building and they were like attacking people. And my grandma gets notifications on her phone about the news. The second that came out of that scene of the zombies attacking the Capitol building, that she got news that the Capitol had been attacked by all those hillbillies. I just find it funny. But anyway, that was not that great that our country had come to this, that all these people were yelling and getting angry and making up lies. And then my Aunt Jackie died. That was a very hard thing to come to terms with, because I don't really remember losing a relative who was that close and who I just saw like a few weeks ago, who I thought were fine. They were gonna be fine, but no, she died, and that made me really upset, and I didn't know what to do either. And during the funeral, I didn't want to see her body because I didn't want to look at it, and I believe part of me didn't want to fully realize that she was dead, that I'm never going to see her again, and that really hurt that I would never get to see her again. And eventually, I did look at her body, because it was kind of like me realizing that I need to put her to rest. And I looked at her body. I gave a good long look, and I gave a speech about how awesome she was and how much I miss her. And I will forever miss her because she was an awesome person. And rest in peace, Jackie. And then I suffered two more deaths, pets. My pet bunny Simon, who I really loved. She was a great bunny. She was very soft, very kind. She always loved to be held. And then Stormy the cat died, who was my mother's boyfriend's cat. And he was also an awesome cat. He was older, didn't have claws, so I was really comfortable with letting him on me. He could give you pokes when he wanted food, like little pokes. And he was so adorable. was always so funny because he always wanted my sister's ham sandwich. He was just a great cat. He was so kind. He really loved to be around people. He always laid down in the cutest way, and I thought he would get better eventually because he would start to get sick. Then he passed away too, and that really hurt me. And it was just hard to deal with that because he was such a great cat, and I had heard about how he went. He died peacefully, and that he was with his um, parents, my mother, and my mother's boyfriend, Michael, and my grandfather. And he was getting sick, and they could tell that he was going to die soon. And they took him on his favorite path, and and they walked with him. They gave him pets, and he passed away. That was really upsetting. And that was not a great year to start off, or not a great thing to start off the year with. And then things started to get better with the pandemic, but then things just started to shut down again, and that was not fun at all. And it just really made me more depressed. It worsened my situation. I didn't think it could get any worse. But things were good, but it didn't feel as if the world was still. It felt as if the world was still in a shithole. That I was never gonna get back to normal, and that everyone in my life was gonna pass away. And that I would never be happy, and I was gonna die. And I started worrying about other things in the world, that I was gonna not have a future, and that I was gonna die without doing anything worthy of life. That all my friends would leave me, and that no one would like me. And I just got really depressed, and I didn't like going to school anymore because I just got really depressed watching the news and everything, and not feeling as if that things were going to be alright. That I was just living for nothing. I never thought of hurting myself, but I was really just depressed and everything. But I try to be happy in some way. I try to be hopeful. I think will be better. And even when I was depressed, I tried to distract myself from it by watching art and being happy, not worrying about what was going to happen, but trying to live with it and survive. Like the film Cure, the message is try and live life to your fullest potential, and don't be bogged down in your sadness, but live and be happy, and that death is okay if you've lived a long life and happy life. And I'm living a very good life. I have lots of friends and my family who love me and who greatly care about me, and things are getting better. And I'm not entirely sure when this pandemic will be fully over, but I'm ready to take on any challenge. I'm still maybe a lot of the time depressed, but I'm gonna take it because I believe in myself, and my friends and family do, and I just love being around. That sounds corny, but I just love being around and having so many people who love me and care about me and want to see me succeed. And I'm gonna keep trying, even through the hardest of times. I'm gonna keep trying and being hopeful because I believe in myself, and I'm ready